I've ever known were people with confidence, comfortable enough in their own skin to be humble. Comfortable enough in their own skin to do two things that an effective parent and boss and coach must do. First, take joy in the achievements of their people. And second, listen. Both things that are really hard for insecure people to do. It takes enough confidence to be humble. Take that first one. The people who were your best mentors, best bosses, would rather not be center stage. They'd rather be over there and have you here. And they'd be off in the wings with a broad smile on their face, watching you shine. Insecure people cannot leave the center of the stage. They're threatened if they're over there. I had good parents, and so it wasn't until I was a parent and spent lots and lots of time at sporting events that I saw the dysfunction that is parents competing with their own children. Parents threatened by the fact that their children are better than they at something. And I wouldn't have believed it until I saw it. I think the way we're supposed to be is hope that they're better than we at everything. And that their children, our grandchildren, are better than they, so that we can look at this thing that we've been part of and say, God, it's wonderful. Insecure people cannot do that. They're threatened by that. A measure of a boss is, what have they launched? Just like we measure parents by saying, so how did their kids end up? You can't launch if you're insecure because you can't take joy in people. You don't have people who used to work with you seated throughout your industry, your school, your sport, because you weren't that kind of person. Confident and humble. I picked a lot of leaders at the FBI, and so I would look for this in selecting them, and then I would test for it in a way that may seem weird. But I would never ask to be briefed by a particular person. I would always just specify a subject. I want to know more about cryptocurrencies. And then I would watch to see who got to speak to the director. Because if they're the kind of people that I think they are, these leaders, they'll go find the woman who's devoted her life to this and bring her in to speak to me, even though she's many layers down. A whole lot of bosses that I've been led by over the years wouldn't do that. What they do is they go take her stuff, study it, and then pretend that they were the expert on it. That's not what I'm looking for. And so the first test was, who comes to speak to the director? And the second was, if they've chosen the expert, and she's killing it, which I'm sure she will be because this is her thing, I would sneak looks at the faces of those in the chain of command between me and that person to see if they're shining. Because they should be shining because she's with you and she's killing it. How awesome is that? A test of whether they have enough confidence to be humble. The second thing, listening. The most important thing I ever did as a leader, that you ever do, is listen to try to find out the truth. I already know what I think. I need to know what you think so I can make better decisions. And I especially need to know what you think about me. What am I missing? Where am I reasoning? Where have I gone off the track? Tell me, so I can make a better decision. And it's challenging for all kinds of reasons to a leader, especially to a leader in a big deal job like I had, because the FBI director sits at the top of a really steep hill, built by the first director. The culture of the FBI is director-centric, almost like an emperor. People would dress up to come see me. They would rise when I came in the room. When they spoke, they would have a little nervous catch in their throat. I'm at the top of this really steep hill. How do I get them to speak up the hill to me? And it's not just the hill, because there's a universal human affliction called the imposter complex. That is the notion that if you knew me the way I know me, you would think less of me. A fear of exposure, a sense that if I'm seen, I'll be seen as less than. All of us have that to one degree or another. If you don't, you're an incredible jerk. I can't help you. But I think we all have it. Some more, some less. But it's universal. So think of the challenge. I sit at the top of this steep hill. I'm afraid. Just by asking questions, I reveal weakness. Because I don't know everything. And I need you to help me. And so I have to risk my exposure. But it's harder than that. It's a double bind. Because that woman who knows cryptocurrencies, She's down the hill from me, deathly afraid of me. Because she knows that I can expose her and ruin her with a sound, not even a word. When she's done, if the director of the FBI looks at her and does this, she's grievously wounded. So she's down the hill afraid of me. I'm at the top of the hill afraid of not being all that. How on earth do we solve that problem to get the truth up the hill? It has to be my responsibility as the person at the top of the hill. I must listen, and by listening, flatten that hill. And here's where my 31 years of marriage have been a constant growth experience for me. I used to think that there were two states of the world that passed for listening, and only one really was. One state of the world is what I call the Washington listen. That's a period of silence while I let you speak before I say what I plan to say the entire time. You're an enemy of America or something, but I'm just waiting for you to stop so I can say what I want to say. It was obvious that's not listening. What I thought was listening was the second state of the world, which is silence, plus your words reaching my conscious brain. Cognition. I'm thinking about what you say. But what I've learned is real listening is a third state of the world. It's silence plus cognition plus something kind of weird. A communication from the listener that I need it. Give it to me. I need it. Give it to me. Give it to me. You're okay. Give it to me. Give it to me. Give it to me. With my posture, my face, weird sounds, communicating to a person, especially one downhill from me, please, please, please. Pulling it out of the speaker. Imagine yourself watching two really good friends talk to each other about something they care about. And it's a cruel trick of nature that women do this better than men, but I'm living proof that men can learn and be better at this. But pick two female friends and imagine yourself as a third party in the room, a stenographer trying to make a transcript of them talking about something they're passionate about. And so what's happening in their conversation? They're talking over each other, and they're finishing each other's sentences, but it's harder than that to be the stenographer because they're using sounds that aren't even words, like, oh, I know, 1,000. With me, he has, no, and so you're trying to take a transcript of this, it doesn't make any sense. What's happening there? That's listening. Even though it may not seem so, that is a human being, two human beings, pushing and pulling information. Give it to me, give it to me, give it to me, back and forth, back and forth. That's listening. So if you're going to be at the top of a steep hill, the way to flatten it and overcome that double bind is to listen like this, that third state of the world. The best leader at doing that I have ever seen, who surprised me, was our last president, Barack Obama. That man surprised me by picking me to be FBI director. When they asked me to come and meet him and be interviewed, I assumed they were just doing it because I hadn't applied for the job, hadn't even thought about it. I was living happily in Connecticut and teaching at Columbia Law School. And I thought they were just doing it so they could say, we interviewed someone, even though I wasn't politically active, who was a Republican. And so we had a broad-based slate of candidates. And one of the reasons I thought that was, I gave money to the man's opponents. I gave money to John McCain and to Mitt Romney. Now, truth be told, I did it because I was worried unprincipled people might take over the Republican Party. A crazy worry, I know. I thought it really important that both parties be represented by institutionalists, by people who respected our central values. But for that reason, I thought, there's no way this guy picks me to be the FBI director. This is just a drill. And then I met him, and he explained, I do not care about politics with this. I want competence and independence. He said, I want to go to bed at night knowing that that organization is well run so that I don't have to worry about it. You're going to be here long after I'm gone. I care about competence. I said, Mr. President, that's exactly how you should think about it. So he picks me to be director, and then I sit and watch him for 3.5 years and was impressed with him in a lot of different ways, but I'll tell you just about the listening. That man would hold meetings with us in the Oval Office. He never sat behind the desk, ever. Sometimes he'd be there if I wasn't there on the phone, but to have a meeting, he understood the danger of taking a block of wood and putting it on that steep slope. So the people who are afraid of you are downhill in this big block of wood. On the slope, I'll I'll talk about our current president in a second. But Barack Obama would always sit in the soft chairs. Armchair here, back to the fireplace, grandfather clock there, another one here, coffee table with a bowl of apples, real apples, and then there'd be a couch here with 3 cushioned seats, couch there, and then other chairs at the end. And he would sit in this chair, and for a briefing, he would have me sit there on the chair, on the cushion of the couch closest to him. He would turn, he would face, he would open his body posture, and he would never interrupt. He would be quiet for 10 minutes. The President of the United States, quiet for 10 minutes. Except he wasn't entirely quiet because he was making little sounds. He was making these, you're okay, give it to me, give it to me, give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. And he wasn't daydreaming about golf during the 10 minutes, because then he would ask you follow-up questions. And he would draw the questions from minute 1, minute 7, and minute 9. He was silent because he understood the danger that if he interrupts, he will not hear the truth. Now, the current occupant of that office is the worst listener as a leader I've ever seen. And I say that because I believe it and I've seen it. Not only is there a block of wood, the meetings that that president holds with us, and I still see it on TV, it's constant, are never in the soft chairs. He's always behind the desk, and people are arrayed around him on the other side of the desk. 1, 2. It's very, very often, almost always, that if you want to tell him something important, you must interrupt him to tell him. So think about that. The people who are afraid are downhill. There's a block of wood, and they're being spoken at down the hill the whole time. So to tell the truth to the president, you have to shout it up the hill, into the wind of his words, over the desk. It's a recipe for not hearing the truth. It's really concerning. So I get to the FBI and I think, I gotta be like this. And so I spend a lot of time opening the posture of my body, relaxing people by asking them, tell me your story before they began, and then not interrupting. Letting them go, getting it, and then asking follow-up questions. It requires confidence to be quiet like that and to be a little bit of a fool making those sounds. A marker of that mix of confidence and humility is humor. Because the insecure struggle to be funny, and they struggle to laugh at other people's funny. And the reason for that is, being funny risks yourself. Because people might not laugh at what you say, or you might look silly laughing. And by laughing at what somebody else says, especially somebody downhill from you, what have you just done? You've given them power. They've amused you by saying something you didn't think of. So humor, in my experience, is a really interesting tell of whether someone is confident enough to be humble. George W. Bush and Barack Obama, I saw the tell constantly. Donald Trump, I've actually never seen the man laugh. Ever. And I became a little bit of a weirdo about this after I got fired. So I've been on the internet looking for examples of laughter. And I found one, ever. Maybe he's hilarious when nobody's around, but never, except a mean laugh at a political event when someone said something about Hillary. And that's it. George W. Bush would use it to relax people, to level the field a little bit. Sometimes his would have an edge, which is dangerous for a president. Barack Obama's never had an edge and would be very, very subtle. I just want to tell you one subtle use of humor that meant a lot to me. After the nightmare of 2016, President Obama commissioned a report from the intelligence agencies, including the FBI. He said, I want to know everything we know about what the Russians did and why, sources and methods, so that I'm equipped to protect this country for the remainder of my term, and so I can equip the new president to protect this country. So a lot of work was done by FBI, CIA, NSA, and overseen by the Director of National Intelligence. And then we went the first week of January to brief the president. And we sat in the Oval Office, soft chairs, and the Director of National Intelligence, Jim Clapper, laid it out for him and said, well, Mr. President, we have a rare thing. We have a joint high confidence opinion. We are highly confident that we have this right, that the Russians came for us in a multi-pronged effort with 3 goals. The first and overwhelmingly most important goal of the Russians, which sometimes gets lost in our discussion in this country, is they want to undermine confidence in this democracy of ours. They want to dirty this shining city on a hill up so that it's not an inspiration for other countries, especially former Soviet states, and it's not used to shame them, first. Second, they wanted to hurt Hillary Clinton, whom Vladimir Putin despised. And third, they want to help like Donald Trump. And so we laid that out for him and explained how we knew that, and then General Clapper said, Mr. President, there's some additional material that we didn't commission a collection of, but was collected by a former Allied intelligence officer with a credible track record of having sources in Russia. And it's difficult material, it's salacious material. We don't know whether it's true or not, but we think we have to tell the incoming president about it. It's an allegation that he was involved in 2013 in Moscow in unusual activities with prostitutes, that were captured images of it by the Russians so they could use it to coerce him. We think we have to tell the man this because we know it, and we don't keep secrets from the President of the United States. Second, we believe the media is about to run with this, so we're not going to let the new president get caught cold. And third, if there's anything to it, one of the techniques we use to defeat coercion is tell the person who might be coerced. By the way, we all know about this, so that it undermines the Russians' ability to use it. And the president shaking his head, that makes sense. And then the president says, what's the plan for that briefing? And the director of national intelligence goes like this. Well, Jim is going to do that. And he's going to stay behind in a private session with the president-elect and talk to him about this. And he explains that our reasoning is, which I agree with, is that Jim is staying, the rest of us are leaving, the FBI owns counterintelligence, and this is going to be a really difficult communication, and we think Jim's an effective communicator. And so at that moment, so I'm President Obama, he's looking at Clapper, and I'm just right to his left. And he just turns his head from Clapper, and he raises and lowers both eyebrows, up, down, like a Groucho Marx thing. And in that moment, I heard a voice inside my head saying, "You poor bastard." It could be that I'm imagining it, but maybe nobody else even noticed, but I felt this beam of comfort, like, dude, you drew the short straw. But it relaxed, maybe it shouldn't have relaxed me, but it relaxed me. A really subtle use of humor, a marker of confidence enough to be humble. So those are the attributes. What do I mean when I use the term ethical leader?